go to the Dairy Max Built by Nature hotline and bring in the head coach of the undefeated Clifton Cubs. We're joined by Coach Chuck Caniford. Coach, how are you?
Doing well. How about y'all?
How are things in beautiful Clifton, Texas today?
We're drying out a little bit finally.
Yeah. It's about time. We all need it.
Yeah.
I want to talk first and foremost before we get to what happened this past week. I want to go back to the beginning of the season. This is a team in Clifton that we thought it was maybe on the verge of something big, something that could be on the breakout path. I'm very interested. When did you get the feeling that this season could be something special for you guys?
We really felt like the last couple of years we've kind of been on the cusp of that. But this group of kids, you could tell even in the winter, just the way that they worked together, the chemistry that they had, how well they just kind of all get along, and then that continued on throughout the summer in our strength and conditioning program. And you could just see that this was a really special group. And then we told our kids back in August that we really felt like they have a chance to be pretty special, and they needed to understand that you don't get those opportunities very often to be a part of a team like this. And so, we really felt all along that this could be one of those kind of teams. And
you guys really cemented it, and I would say jumped onto the statewide radar this week with a big win at home over Lexington. You guys were 7-0 entering this game. Obviously, you guys knew you were pretty good, but this was a big game at home. You figured it was going to be, still work to do, but you figured this was going to be for the district championship. What was your message to your kids before the game, to make sure they went out there and took care of business?
We told them basically to do the same thing they'd been doing every week. I told them they didn't need to do anything special. They didn't need to be superhuman. They just needed to go out and play to our standard for 48 minutes. And if they did that, then we were confident they were going to be victorious. Really, that's the thing. I think a lot of times when you play teams as good as Lexington, that people try to do too much. The thing we emphasize all the time is just, knowing your job, doing your job, and doing it well, and trust that your teammates are going to do the same. And that was the message. Don't try to do anything special. Just play our game, and it'll all work out.
Well, it started for you guys on the defensive side. It's always been about your defense this year. Your defense has been really outstanding. What is it about your defense that's working right now that was able to hold down and force a few key turnovers, one of the most explosive attacks in Class 3A?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and it's cliche, but it starts up front. We felt really good coming into this year about our linebackers. We felt really good about our secondary. We had a lot of kids coming back that have played a lot of football, a lot of playoff games over the last couple of years. But we graduated some really talented defensive linemen out of last year's team. And so that was the big concern. But I think that's really the difference, is that we had to take some guys that had never put their hand in the ground, from linebacker and make them defensive linemen. And as a result, they've brought a linebacker mentality to our front, that they're not just going to try to take a gap and let the linebackers make their plays. They want to go make the plays themselves. And so I think that's probably the biggest difference for us, is that we've got 4 guys up front that want to go make the tackle instead of just, taking up a gap.
We're talking with Chuck Caniford, the head coach of the Clifton Cubs here on Texas Football Today. Get involved with the conversation, #TF Today. Coach, one guy who, you got a lot of – you guys seem to be a team that's kind of greater than the sum of your parts, but one guy who really stands out to me is Riley Perry. It is, at 3A, it's not rare to see a guy playing both ways, but it maybe is rare that your leading rusher is also your leading tackler. And this guy seems to do it all. What can you tell us, for those who aren't familiar, what can you tell us about this young man?
He's a really, really special kid. And obviously he's got some physical tools that allow him to do what he does on the field. But he's a really intelligent kid, very, very humble. It's like pulling teeth to get him to do a radio interview. I mean, he just doesn't want the attention. And he's a guy that, you hear it all the time, but he's a guy that comes to work every single day. He started for us at linebacker since he was a freshman. And so he's been in a lot of big games, been in a lot of big playoff games. He's one of those guys that the moment is not going to get him. It's not going to rattle him, and he seems to play his biggest in the biggest games. But he was an absolute beast on Friday night, no question. I mean, he ran for over 200 yards. He was double-digit tackles, forced 2 fumbles. I mean, he's just he's a playmaker, and he's a guy that, you know, when the game's on the line, you want him on the field.
And the thing that stands out to me when you look up and down your roster is that you guys are getting contributions from a lot of juniors. You know, Mason Brandenburger, your quarterback, is a junior. You know, Riley Perry is a junior. You've got other guys, like Hayden Newton, who are juniors. Do you feel like as the season progresses that you're seeing these guys grow up a little bit?
Yeah, and a lot of them grew up last year. You know, Mason rotated at quarterback for us after about the 3rd game of the year last year when Hutch got hurt. Mason ended up, you know, starting the game and played well enough that we ended up rotating him. You know, a lot of these guys, you know, Hayden was a guy that late in the year came up and helped us on special teams. You know, our junior class, you know, has a lot of those guys were key contributors last year as sophomores. And so, you know, they continue to get better. They've always been a really special group. You know, they didn't lose a game in middle school. They were very successful when they were freshmen, you know, as a JV group, and that's just continued at the varsity level. So that really is not a surprise for us. That group's always been that way. And I think, like you said, the thing that stands out about them is there's not really a 5-star standout guy. It's just they're a really, really good team. You know, they play really well together. Every Friday night it's a different guy. You know, last week it was, you know, Mason had, you know, contributed on 6 touchdowns. This week it was Riley. I mean, it's kind of a different guy every week. TJ at receiver has been a beast for us. You know, it's a really, really good collection of parts that really play well together.
It's all working for you guys right now, and now, you know, you look ahead for you guys. You guys have the very odd scheduling quirk. You get Florence this week. You know, you can't take any district foe lightly. You know, you're going to take care of them. And then you guys get the very odd Week 10 bye. You know, so, and then, by the way, you got to pick it back up and go up against a Rogers team that is always game for a fight. How do you approach what is a very odd scheduling quirk where you guys are going to get a week off right before, you know, literally all your most important games?
Well, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, controlling the controllables, and that's one of the things that, hey, look, that's out of our control. You know, would we have picked that open week? Probably not, but that's what we got, and so we're just going to make the best of it. You know, maybe the timing of it works out perfect. We can get a chance to get healed up. There was a super physical game on Friday night on both sides. You know, we've got to find a way to get recovered and get ready for this week. And then maybe we can kind of catch our breath a little bit. And we know Rogers is going to bring everything they got. I mean, every year we've played them, it's been a battle, and those guys do a great job, Charlie and his staff, getting their kids ready. And that'll be a huge game for us, you know, and fortunately it's at home and get to finish the regular season, you know, hopefully on a positive note if we can play well and get ready for the run in the playoffs. But, yeah, I mean, you know, those things are out of your control, kind of like your district, and you just play who they tell you to play, and let's make the best of it.
One more question for Chuck Caniford, the head coach of the Clifton Cubs. Coach, you know, we talk so much about small towns. Clifton's a town of about 3,500 folks, and, you know, I think people maybe outside the state of Texas have this idea of what small-town Texas high school football is like. You know, maybe the head coach is, I don't know, on the city council or something like that. So my question for you is that what is the more high-pressure job, alderman for the city of Clifton or head coach of the Clifton Cubs?
It depends on how the week's going. Yeah, it really depends on what's going on. You know, that's been a great experience for me. You know, I had some people ask me about doing that, and I've been looking for a new way to kind of get involved in the community. We had a tornado here a couple of years back, and took a bunch of our kids out to help, you know, clean up, and that's where it really kind of hit me that, you know, that there's got to be more that we can do, and if I'm going to ask our kids to, you know, step up and really contribute to our community, then I need to be the leader in that role. And so this was a great way to do that. Man, I've learned a whole lot about, you know, government and how things work, and it's really been a really positive experience for me.
He is the Honorable Chuck Caniford, the head coach of the Clifton Cubs. They are 8-0. Coach, really appreciate your time. Congratulations again on the big win on Friday night. Best of luck this Friday against Florence and down the road.
I appreciate it. Thanks for all you guys do to promote the sport, man. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Coach. Take care.
You too.
There he goes, Chuck Caniford, the head coach the Clifton Cubs, an alderman for the city of Clifton. I was looking at that because here's how it came up: is that I was looking for a photo of him, and they have a low-res photo of him on the site, on the school site. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, let's keep looking. So I went on Facebook, right? Type in Chuck Caniford for city council. I go, pardon? Sure enough, you go to cityofclifton.org, check out the city council page, and there he is, Alderman Chuck Caniford. Nice. So I imagine that he can whip the votes pretty good if you're 8-0.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The hand in glove, it all works pretty well there in Clifton, Texas. So we appreciate.
We just want to run this government like a football team.
Listen, yeah, we want.
That is a message Texas fans can get behind.
Listen, yeah, if the campaign side says Caniford for city council, we'll run it like the Cubs. Be like, all right, we're in. Yep.
Yeah.
Where do I vote?
It.
Early voting.
Well-oiled machine.
Yeah, exactly. So we appreciate Coach Chuck Caniford helping out with us.